Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and challenging norms. We are back again today for another book club. Today, it's the one thing. The surprising truth.
I was just going to say, there's no way you know it.
The surprising truth.
The surprisingly simple truth. Two, behind extraordinary results. The one thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. It's tiny. Let's just call it the one thing.
God,
Because
Gary's going to be mad.
One's huge. Okay, Gary, if you're listening, your title, it's got to be one thing. What are all those little tiny
No subtitles.
words there?
Gary Keller, let's talk about him briefly.
And Jay Papasan. It says with Jay Papasan.
They all have those little guys.
So he's saying the one thing, but everything's 6 things on here.
I don't like it.
Who is he?
I don't trust it.
Who is he?
Well, Gary Keller. Who? I guess I jumped put the cart before the horse. I want to say who wants to listen to this first. Plus, I want to say review this thing. God, wow, we suck at podcasting still. 68 episodes in? Who knows? I wanted to say that, one, leave a review. Watch this on YouTube because we're looking sexy. We're looking goofy. Belky looks good. Let's say that. So Gary Keller, he's a dude.
That's your pitch?
Oh, I'm rattled. Why am I rattled, Belky? Gary Keller's a guy.
Hold on.
And you should want to...
Can we have 5 more seconds here? Are people leaving reviews or are they not leaving reviews? And are you ever doing your review game or not? Because I think that's what we're okay.
I'll do it. No, I'll do it if I see some good reviews. Okay?
Okay.
But,
so subscribe on YouTube. Smart Nonsense. Search Smart Nonsense. Maybe SEO picked up and leave us a review. Now you can tell us. Now you can tell us who Gary Keller is.
Let's talk about Gary Keller and why you should care about him. First, Gary Keller. All right, he's a little Texan man. Actually, don't know if he was born there, but he went to school there, lived there in Austin for a while. Gary Keller started Keller Williams, and I didn't really know what the hell that was until like thinking of the little signs on the side of the road.
Yeah, we had Keller Williams always sponsored one of our baseball teams in town.
Really?
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Keller Williams.
That's how I knew.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good at real estate. They're pretty much the number one real estate franchise company. So basically, I think our understanding is if you're a realtor, you want to sign on because they're the real deal. They'll help you with ads, kind of go through the motions of being an awesome person.
They'll just help you with ads.
So that's it.
The most generic thing you could have said.
There you go. So yeah, you kind of know it. Whenever you see signs for like, what is it, Century 21, there are a couple others, or like Remax, that sort of stuff.
With the big balloon.
This is the best. And so Keller Williams, Gary Keller had a guy like Joe Williams that worked with him. But he's just this like salt of the earth dude that's awesome to listen to. I listen to his Tim Ferriss podcast too. Love that. If you want the 2-hour version of the book, that's kind of it. But he's just a cool dude that figured out how to grow like no one's done before. And he just brings all our principles, all our good like 80-20 principles, deep work. It just all comes together in this sexy little book that was like 6 hours long, however long it took. Oh man,
who's this for? Who's this
for? Thanks for keeping me. You can't remember the format. If there's one thing you do, Belky, read subtitles and just keep me on track. So this book is for anyone that's if you're trying to be average, right? You want to be an average contributor to this world. You want to make like a mediocre impact. Don't read the book.
That's not for you.
It's not for you. This is for the A players, the people that want to step up their game, crush it in the most important part of the day for like 4 hours straight on the most important thing.
Yeah, time blocks.
Yeah, we're gonna
Let's get into it.
Well, let's go from the start, right? Like, why are we just focusing on one thing rather than your 15 things to do on the to-do list?
To-do list versus success list, baby. Can we right before we get there? Can we talk about dominoes?
Slip it in.
Can we just talk about?
You see that little? That was the first thing I had.
Yes.
Come on. Can you see that? Focus on that.
Dominoes. Here's the deal with dominoes. I'm no physicist, but once upon a time, I think I knew a thing or two about physics. If you stack up a bunch of little dominoes in a row, that's all I got. No, if you stack up a bunch of little dominoes in a row, the potential energy in that system is enormous, but they're all the same size. Okay. Now Keller says, I think there was this study where, or this domino maker, where they set up dominoes And each time there was the next preceding, not the next preceding, succeeding domino was 50% as big as the one before.
50% bigger.
Bigger.
150%.
150%. 1.5 times the size. So
he was a physicist.
So that's why there was a disclaimer. So you can start. What did they find?
Basically, I mean, you're talking about compound growth where it's 1.5 to the n. So like you get
physics math guy.
So you get one little domino, right? And
Yeah.
it just keeps growing and compounding and compounding. The next thing you know, one little domino can topple to the moon.
Right.
So it's this.
This wasn't a thought experiment, by the way. Like one domino can literally knock over a domino 1.5 times its size.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea, is like figure out the one thing, that one domino that you hit over, and it knocks everything down.
Yeah.
So you want to create this insane potential energy and just release it.
For the people, this was me at different times in my life. For the people like battling depression and like literally can't get out of bed.
I thought I wasn't recording for a second. Wow, I got
It's got a
scared.
good intro so far. Like, again, we talked about this. There was that Navy SEAL that said it. The first thing you can do in a day, the one thing you can do when you wake up, the one thing you can control is making your bed. And it's that kind of, what do you call it, keystone habit?
Yeah.
Right. So you make your bed. Now the next thing you do is going to be 1.5 times as big. And then you just
God,
do
we're
that
gonna
all day
we're gonna
long.
put that little B-roll of that clip just from. I just love military men.
SEAL guy?
They're to look
Oh,
badass.
you love military men.
I would marry one in a second.
Yeah. Okay, so then that brings us to to-do lists and what was the other kind? Success lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess you're a big to-do list guy, which
Huge.
has always bothered
Here.
me. The problem.
Here's my to-do lists. Well, some of them are just notes.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
gross.
Here's the thing. This is an Adam Savage thing,
Okay.
right? So you make a to-do list with squares and you can kind of fill in where you're at based on the square. My thing with to-do lists, it's the reason I haven't gone online with them, is because writing is enough friction where if I don't get to something, I don't just put it on the next day, where by the end of the week, I have a mountain of things to do. And I think a lot of people on Notion especially use to-do lists where it's super easy to just like, oh, I didn't get to it today. And you drag it to the next day, you drag it to the next day. And then why are you licking your lips? And then you by the end of the week, you've got a million things to do because they were so easy to push off.
My old boss, it pissed me off so much, but he'd be like, oh, this is an important email. I'm just going to forward it to myself for later. And he like resends it to himself. I didn't understand.
Instead of like leaving it unread.
He needs this system, basically. And I think you do too, because the problem there is I see a bunch of little boxes, but how do you know what is top priority?
These are multiple days. So I write them in order. Yeah. So the first few are the most important. And then, what does he say? Be a maker in the morning and a manager in the afternoon. And in the evening is when I do...
Paul Graham said that.
Paul
Or
Graham said
basically
that,
he's
Keller.
adapting Paul Graham's
Right.
maker versus manager schedule or something.
Right.
Post.
That's the reason like I
We'll
don't
link
read
it.
emails in the morning. But I do all those little things like reaching out to people, emails, phone calls for like
Well,
1 or 2 hours
the
in the
maker
evening.
schedule, just so everyone's clear, is like makers, you need this deep work time. Link back to that episode. You need the deep work time, which is like these half-day minimum chunks where you're just focused in the zone. You don't have any distractions. But a manager, you kind of need to have these like meetings and just be involved on an hour-to-hour basis. So the idea is the first half of the day, at least in your case, is maker, and then manager is all these kind of little nitpicky stuff that
by the
just has to
evening.
get done.
Because willpower, it's finite. It's the reason 10 p.m. rolls around and I'm sitting on the couch eating a little fat bowl of ice cream.
That's why we have this problem. You texted me. You were like, Dylan, do you work 5 to 9?
You didn't come until 2 today.
Because I was just cramming this book in, all right? I
Which
got
is
to read
fine.
the book. That's my maker schedule.
Yeah.
But that's the idea. And I think so many people don't realize this, even though it's been proven proved or proven. I always mix those up.
I don't know.
It's been proved.
Proven sounds better.
Science has said that basically you have finite willpower. Think of it like a battery on your iPhone,
A muscle.
right? It
yeah.
starts at 100%, but through the day, it's just depleting.
Right.
Same thing with
Decisions.
decisions.
Because they are willpower-ish.
So I think there was an actual number. I think it was like 4,000. I don't know where they pull these numbers from, but like 4,000 decisions or something like that. But basically, like you get a finite amount. And so every time you're using it, the longer you go in the day, the worse decisions. And it has this cool little example of, well, not cool for the people involved, but people on parole or going, like they're going to the judge or asking for parole, however that works. If you go in the beginning of the day, the judge is nice.
Yes.
He's got all his willpower,
my gosh.
and he's going to like listen to your case and hear you out and probably grant you parole. Whereas if you come in later in the day when his willpower is depleted, he's going to default to fuck this guy. I don't trust you. Go back to prison.
Yes. I have two things to say there. One, this is the reason why so do all the hard stuff in the morning, right? If you see me, these last week or two has been weird, but in the afternoon, I'm usually cleaning, doing shop infrastructure, like really easy brain things. The hard stuff in the morning. The other thing I've realized in my life, don't get haircuts at like 7 or 8 or 9 p.m. because that person has been standing on their feet all day. It's the same thing. They're checked out by that point. They've used up all their hair cutting willpower ability through the day. So I come home with like patches in my head. Go first thing in the morning when they're like excited for the new day.
Patches. I want to name. I always like little dog names like that. Patches.
What was yours? Benny.
Scoot.
Benny.
Scooch. I got a lot of names up in my head. My kid, if it's a guy, it's over.
Okay, you don't use it.
Let me say real quick though. What's kind of cool before I get into what I do with there's this little hack. And Kevin Kelly does this hack for how to regenerate your willpower. It's the little power naps. Willpower, power nap. I like the sound of it. So if you come in, you take like a 25-minute nap. Mine are usually like an hour and a half. But you take a nap.
I came in here yesterday, and I thought I was here alone. The alarm was on. The lights were off. And I was like, it smells like Dylan. That's kind of weird. So I'm putting my stuff down. I take my coat off. I get into my little music box office. The lights are off. And you're just knocked out on the floor.
I slept for like 2-3 hours yesterday, just in the music box. So, okay. All right. You can kind of regain it. Kevin Kelly does it at like 12 noon, 1 p.m. And then you're just fresh. You can kind of do like 2 maker schedules in theory. But here's what's going on with myself. I don't do a great job of it, but I want to do a better job. I kind of, my little like morning workout that I do.
You have a good routine.
I have a good routine with working out. Not so much work this morning. I played some Call of Duty because I'm trying to get every last second of that in.
We can just get an Xbox if you want.
No. I can play every 6 months and I just go ham. So now's ham period, but I'm trash. So here's what I do. Was
that your one thing today, Call of Duty?
No, my one thing was this book.
Okay.
Just like cram the book.
Yeah.
Often what we found was like we have so many podcasts that the one thing would be the podcast. And then like I don't accomplish much, and like distribution is important. So,
sorry, just the way you phrased that. And then I saw myself spitting my water out everywhere, and I almost did.
Yeah, there you go. You know, self-fulfilling. So basically, I don't have a good system, but the system that you need to do is just start prioritizing, and really all that matters is that number one item on the to-do list. But the question then is like, how do I know what that one item is? So Gary has this entire mindset, and it comes from really thinking big. Like the beginning of everything, you have to think big. What's your dream, and how do we make that a reality on a more digestible, actionable?
The magic of thinking big plug.
There you go. God, I want to make that one of our next books. That's really good. So basically, one quote that I'll mention too, because I like it a lot, is where Gary was asked by this person. I don't know if it was an employee or some past person, but like, Gary, like, do you think that thinking big, say, oh, I want to be the number one real estate franchise as a no-name, like 30 years old. That's thinking huge, but is that realistic? Like, why would you want to think big? What's wrong with you?
I get to a point when we shoot these in the afternoon now.
It's too late.
Where the coffee's gone to my head. And I'm just looking at you like, wow, he's really talking. I think it's funny. I think it's funny because you don't talk much. But on the
I haven't talked at all today. This is the first time I'm talking.
We had a good business meeting today. But
I ordered a meatball sub.
You're a really good talker.
Here's the thing. I went to order my meatball sub, and I was listening to the podcast, and I had like an hour and a half of the podcast, but we were supposed to shoot in 30 minutes, which didn't happen. But I'm like, all right, I'm listening at 3 times speed. I don't have time to give my order. I'm going to batch my order, and I tell him everything I want on my sandwich at once. Overwhelm the guy. He's like freaking out, and I'm like, dude, I gotta play it again because I'm pausing to tell you the order. So I'm back. I'm talking. But basically, this guy goes up to Gary, and he's like, Gary, you preach this thinking big, but is it realistic? And then Gary, he's like, well, Henry, do you know what your limits are? Like, no, I don't. He's like, well, then the question is irrelevant. Because if you don't know your limits, what is thinking big?
What is big? Yeah.
It's all this relative sphere. And again, until you're out there really just grinding in the right way, you don't know what's possible and what isn't.
This is all to get back to your point on like, what is that one thing I'm doing each day?
Yeah. Basically, you start from thinking big, and then you're going to work your way back. And so there's this question. This is the essence of the book. It took us maybe 20 minutes of just giggling, hooting, and hollering to get here.
Yeah, 17.
Jesus, is anyone listening to this?
I think
the question is this, okay? That's what happens. Kicked you off the interviews, and now they're just boring as shit because it's just me talking to people I don't know.
Have gone to the total other end of the spectrum. Wait, that makes sense. Really smart interviews and really nonsensical shit with me.
Tune in for what you want, I guess. I'll try and do a little bit more nonsense, but that's also kind of interesting. God damn, I'm tangentializing, tangerining. With balancing, people talk about balance, like work-life balance. It's all bullshit. That was in
the book?
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't do it. Balance doesn't exist.
Everything, it's all bullshit. You can't. People can't walk at the same speed and text at the same time. You know, talk to
drive
an adult.
And text.
Siobhan, talk to an adult. Talk to an adult. Ask them a question while they're texting. I promise you they won't hear you. Like, you can't multitask.
Yeah,
you cannot multitask.
When it's something important, like you get an important text that freaks you out, and it kind of goes back to what everybody's saying, but you just stop. You stop moving, and you just focus on texting. So you can only focus on one thing. Sorry, I'm spitting like a madman.
COVID. We're moving in together soon.
No Wi-Fi, though. All right, so where's Tony?
Wait, multitasking. I have a lot to say about that.
All right, talk about it. We got plenty of time.
We got all the time. We're halfway done. We got plenty of time. What do I want to say about multitasking? It was that thing about parents. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Here's what it is. Let me say this. Let me say this. At school, and this isn't just at our school, it's higher education in general, and the workforce. There's this fetish around just like doing everything at the same time, being on Slack and being on your email, and being on your phone. What?
So, okay, if you follow me on Instagram, which there's no real need to anymore, but Dylan_Jardon, I post every morning my little workout, and you can see there's another building across from me. And in that building are a ton of these offices, these little rooms, and I see people working away, and I'm just there observing. I'm like that little eagle just waiting for, like, I don't know, a rat, but I'm just staring at them like crazy. And so I see their work habits because I got nothing to do.
Okay.
And so I'm just observing, and I'm like,
far away though.
It's like 50 feet.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they can see in, but I'm like naked basically. And I can see them and they have their phones on their desks and everything. And I see when they get distracted. So I'm just observing. I'm like, because there are a bunch of people I can see at once, and they're all just like every 5 minutes. I think there was an actual study, and it's like it's practically impossible to go beyond like 11 minutes without getting some distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess this comes back.
You should see when my whole family's sitting in a room and somebody texts in the family group chat, and every head just does this, like to their phone. Right away. Bing, 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 bing. It's crazy.
The family life. Divorced parents never had
that. Sad. Wow. That, it's a little bit different when you're just lounging around home. But in the workplace, it takes so much energy to go from task to high-level task to high-level task that, first of all, it's like, frankly, a waste of time to do that energy shift, and it's just not possible.
That's what they had in Deep Work, Cal Newport, where there's this residue. Every time you're switching tasks, you keep a little bit of whatever was going through your head, and it's just like you're inefficient. So don't do multitasking. Whenever I see it, I'm like, say someone's applying or something, I see multitasking, like excellent multitasking. I'm like, all right, you're playing in the B leagues.
This is the one more thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, there it is.
You say that. I cannot even listen to a song with lyrics while editing photos. Like the lowest possible. I am so focused on editing that photo and talking to myself in my head that you can't possibly you can't even listen to something. And I think a lot of people just, especially in college, right? They throw on music and study. I don't think it's effective.
People don't know how to study. They all talk about just hanging out in the sci-li for 12 hours and they think they get something done, but they don't. What I love about that too is like, I've heard, what's the investor? Chris Sacca. Chris Sacca, he'll just put on like Harlem Shake, for example.
Oh, over and over.
Do the Harlem Shake. And songs like that, and I've heard it several people. I think Matt Mullenweg was another one. He'd do it with Kendrick Lamar. But you have all these people, they just play the same thing on repeat. So like you're not actually listening to it. It's just in the background. And I also, God, we're going to go on the biggest tangents.
Let's do it.
But when I was a junior, I think, sophomore in high school, Brown had some like science fair or something. And I got into it. And so I went and I had this stupid little like, oh, what's the optimal like plant distance for seeding? Some stupid thing. But there was this other cool exhibit right next to mine that was actually like good. And I asked them what it is. And they're like, oh, well, we studied like if listening to music, what types of music promote the most productivity. And what they found is music without lyrics is the key.
It's not even like your brain wants to figure out what all those lyrics are.
Right.
You can't control it.
It's just like you wouldn't want people in a room talking to you, and that's what it is. So, okay, big loop back to thinking big. And how do you find the one thing to work on during this period? So ask yourself this question, Belky. And this is it. God, if you giggle one more time, this question is everything because questions, okay? And I've been loving questions because I'm trying to be a better interviewer or just like conversationalist.
Questions you just bring them on the pod. It's the only way you talk, like we said.
That's everyone, my family, they don't know what I sound like until they hear the podcast. That's why they listen to it.
I feel like they text you too. They're like, oh, Dylan, you're using good words. You know, you sound actually smarter than we thought.
My dad commented on our Deep Work podcast too, said some nonsense. But here's the question. Okay, Belky?
Yeah.
I'm going to read it because it's so important, but I know it inside. Actually, let me see if I can paraphrase it. Am I going to butcher it?
Where is it?
It's at the top. All right.
Okay.
What is the one thing you can do?
It's a good question, by the way.
Such that by doing it, it will make everything else easier or irrelevant.
Boom.
Bam!
Got it. Unnecessary. They use.
Oh, you... Irrelevant, unnecessary.
What's the one thing you can do today, this week, such that next month, such that in a year, in 10 years, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?
Or irrelevant.
Or irrelevant, apparently. That's the entire book, right? And you've been telling me that for weeks and months.
I mean, take the whole book. There are a bunch of these nuggets. Clearly, we've just been riffing for a while off of them. But that's the essence. It's like you come every start of the day. You're like, today I am going to do X. That's it. That's my only focus. If I get that done, then I'm going to have a successful day. The rest is just icing on the cake.
It goes further, too. I forget who said this, but it's like with your spouse. What is the one thing I can do when they or I walk in the door today such that the rest of the evening together will be easier or more lovely, right?
Basically,
or your roommate, whoever. Like, what is the one thing you have to do? Give them some flowers. Give them a kiss on the cheek. Like, one thing.
A kiss on the cheek to your roommate?
No, the spouse.
Oh, sorry. I was like, I'm
not coming home and kissing you on the cheek. Lips, baby.
Hear what you want to hear, baby. Got to get some action.
Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, so exactly, it transcends everything. It's not just work. It's just like whatever pursuit you're going after. Think.
And I think you're really good at this because you say like you're lazy. You're like, what's the one thing I can do? Because all I want to do is play video games right now, so that everything else is easier or more unnecessary.
I think, yeah, that's the genius of lazy people is it's just, this is innate.
Hackers.
To some extent. So like right now I was thinking for myself, what's the one thing? Well, actually, technically, you think big first, and then you try and break it down from there. So like, for example, if I'm like, I want to be Joe Rogan basically in someday, which is like 5-10 years, whatever. Like have that sort of reach, impact, talk to cool people, like spread whatever ideas I have or we have out there. And then you break it down like, all right, what's the one thing that can get me there in say 5 years? Well, it's having say 10 million subscribers on YouTube.
Great.
And you're like, all right, well, what's the one thing that could get me to 10 million subscribers on YouTube in 1 year? You're like, get to 100,000. And you're like, all right, what's going to get me to 100,000 a month? Get to, I don't know, 1,000, whatever it is.
And then how do you get to 1,000?
And you break it down. So now I'm like, all right, this week, get to 100. Today, how do I get to 100? What's the one thing I can do to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the week? And so for me, I was like, oh,
And it keeps
probably.
going.
I mean, you can go, oh, the next one is like right now.
No, like what's the one thing I can do right now to get one person or to get those first 100 people?
Oh, yeah.
Like what's the one actual process I can do to get 100 people this week? Like I did it on Tinder one week.
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
Not for yourself, just for the video.
For a video. But I'm like you can distill it down to one process.
But that trajectory, and you got to kind of factor in compound growth, but the trajectory is going to hold. So you just do that one thing. And so now I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to create a system for repurposing the content so I can distribute all of this podcast more easily, get more exposure, get more subscribers. I can see Belky's fading already. We're getting tired. So the essence is just figure out the one thing. It helps to write it down right through this whole process. I have to do the same, but that's my general idea of where.
Well, in terms of doing the one thing, and if we go back to to-do lists, why I think they're so important is like you can only, like we said with multitasking, you can only focus on one thing. And I feel like I know a number of people that don't have to-do lists and they're just carrying all this baggage in their head all day. If someone says something to me or you're like, I need you to print these 2 labels for me, I write them down immediately. I don't have 10 minutes to remember, like, I need to get your labels. That's why I think writing's so important.
Yeah. Just in general, having good systems.
Take the cognitive load off.
Yeah, that's why I love technology. I love Notion. I'm looking into Rome now. I just want to have super dope systems because I'm consuming so much shit. And like, I know, like this book, for example, there are probably 100 quotes that I could put into Twitter, but I don't because I don't have the systems.
You and Brandon were talking about air something?
Yeah. Oh, that's who I want to have on the podcast. I want to get that
because like this morning I was listening to this book and I was running. I took 0 notes on this book, but I was like, well, if I had that thing, I could just hit the air thing and it pulls that quote.
Right. The founder is friends with Valentine on Facebook.
Okay.
I looked him up because I want to have him on, but it's dope because you can just clip whatever little segment and then you can share it super easily.
Is it an app and it's live?
It's basically like Apple Podcasts, but it's just another alternative.
Oh, so people have to actually put their podcasts on there?
Yeah, but everything migrates like seamlessly.
Could we have listened to this book on there?
It's an audiobook. You can't, it's for podcast. Oh, maybe it works for books. I haven't explored it enough, but like the idea is there. You're consuming all this content, have the systems in place, get it out there. So that's the one thing we could work on is just today, 4 hours, I am locking myself in the music box and I'm going to come out with the system for repurposing content. Yeah, we didn't even talk about
time blocks.
It's kind of into the maker schedule.
Yeah.
But time blocks, there's so much.
It's what you just said. Like give yourself and the people you work with, like your maker schedule, your time blocks. The people around you are going to appreciate that. So they know when they have your attention. And then you need that too. So that you can just like crank away, like have your snacks, he said, have like everything you need so that for 4 hours you can just go ham. That's all you really need in a day.
I love the way they talk about it. They make it very war-y. So, like war as in battle.
War, yeah, WAR.
So it's like, all right, we're protecting our time blocks. And so how do you do that? 4 steps. Step number 1, build your bunker. That thing right there. Bunker. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, behind that wall is a sexy little music box. You can find it in Henry's vlogs.
We'll need link bags in there.
True. I'm just sleeping on the floor. My hip hurt. Yeah. It's not very... It's just thin carpet.
This weekend.
Step number 2, store your provisions. We're out of provisions. We've been going crazy because I'm not buying them.
What does that mean? Food items.
Foods, yeah, water, whatever you need.
We haven't had clean food or water here in 4 days.
Just picking through the trash like scavengers. Number 3.
Hey, I got half a burrito if you want it. I got it for lunch.
Nah, I just had a foot long. Shoving it down my face on the subway.
Okay, next.
Step number 3, sweep for mines. What are mines?
Was this in the book?
Yeah.
Missed the fuck out
3 times speed.
3.5.
You have these mines, little minefield of like phones, distractions, little pings going off in the background, people coming through. Sweep them, get them the fuck out of here. You want a clean workspace.
Let's hire a little intern to come in and just with headphones on and a metal detector, just sweep all the nonsense.
When I was little,
like, hey, I see your phone.
I wanted a like for Christmas, I think I got greedy and I wanted like a signed baseball bat by all the Boston Red Sox.
You greedy motherfucker.
Only child syndrome. And number 2, I wanted a metal detector.
Okay.
And I got the bat and I didn't get the metal detector.
With all the signatures?
Yeah. Parents are awesome.
Auction or something.
Probably.
They're probably fake. You know what?
They could be fake.
Slick Rick probably sat in the basement Slick Rick, if you're hearing this, looking up all the autographs, printing them out, like tracing them for you.
I can guarantee it's probably that. I've kept it in my closet thinking it's worth $4,000. But then I cried.
Nonsense, Rick.
I got all sad because I didn't get both things that I wanted. But then I went out into the backyard and my mom hid it by a tree because she's like, oh, you got to find it because it's a metal detector and you find things. So we need a little...
Wait, so did you actually get both?
Yeah, I got 2 dope things that year. Follow-up
question. You're pretty, given the scenario you just laid out, you're like a pretty frugal, humble, like easygoing person. At what point did that change? like when did you go from, I want both, like who's that in?
Oh, you're saying now I'm frugal?
Yeah, I'm saying like Violet Beauregard.
I don't know if I'm frugal.
She always, she wanted stuff in Willy Wonka.
Oh, I never wanted things. I just didn't want people buying me shit. I just wanted money. I've always told my family, just get me money and I'll figure out what I want when I want it. I don't know about... I spend a lot of money on food and travel.
What I'm asking is, like, you sounded like you were really spoiled at the time. When did that change? Because you're not now.
I don't think I was... I don't know.
No, don't sweat.
I was just chewing on the microphone. Right. I kind of drooled on it, I think.
Okay, we were at minesweeping. I think.
Okay, so that's the protect, but who are you protecting from?
Wasn't there 4 points?
Oh.
I'm listening.
Yes, Belky.
I'm listening.
Number 4, enlist support. So you want your little accountability. You want people that know that this is your time block. You kind of talked about that, but let everyone know, hey, from 8 a.m. to noon or whatever it is, this is my chunk. Like, if you're calling or texting, I'm not going to get back to you because this is my number 1 priority. That's how I'm going to be the dopest podcaster around. So now you have your 4 little protections. What are you protecting from? You have these thieves. Okay, Belky?
I missed this whole part of the video.
I know, it's funny. I can tell by the look on your face. You have 4 thieves. What is one? Well, it's the inability to say no. So if people are like, Belky, I want you to come help me return these stupid cables and the stupid camera that I bought for no reason, and then you spend 2 hours wasting your time going with me to run errands. So you want to be able to say no to people.
Oh, I did hear this. And you know what? I was doing something else at the time, so I missed every 10 words.
Focus. Yeah. You're just dividing it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I had to go back and write them all down and stuff.
Lunch. That's how simple I am. I was eating lunch and oh, that tasted really good.
What's cool is... it tasted really good. What's cool is on the Tim Ferriss, Gary Keller podcast, Tim was asking, because he's all about these saying no questions. He asked Gary how he does it. And then Tim's like, I had this one friend that would have all these speaking engagements. And their rule is you have full price or no price. So full price is like, say it's $25,000 or whatever. If you're not paying me that, I'm not doing it. Unless it's like volunteer charity or something.
Then
like
you do no price, right?
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, and then if someone comes and offers me $40,000, oh, that's the new high water mark. Yeah. So it's basically like, it'll go from there.
We were talking about prices today. We were like, well, what should we make it? I don't know, $5,000, $6,000.
Yeah, we're trying to get in a little
new bench line. That's a big one for me. I used to be a massive yes man. Everything. Spread myself as thin as I possibly could. Do everything for everyone. And now I just say no to people. And if I don't say no, I ask more. Like, people are asking me for shit on LinkedIn all the time. And like half the time it doesn't make any sense. They want me to like come do some like little like incubator or whatever. And so I just ask them a question. I was like, why? I was like, what value would I provide to you? I just like ask them. And I think 5 messages in, they realize like, oh, we don't want this guy. What was that thing? The guy said, you don't want me. Feynman said it. I'm irresponsible.
I'm irresponsible.
You don't want me. I'm irresponsible. That's a polite way to say no.
There's different ways to do it.
The other way was like, you can say no with a pitch for like someone else or something else. Like you can be helpful.
Like, yeah, I'm busy. I plan my schedule like a year in advance, but Henry, he'll do everything. He's a yes man.
He'll just do it all.
So that's one, is like learn to say no so that you can really have this focused time. Learn to accept chaos. Because people can't deal with the chaos of like, I'm focused on only one thing. What about the other 9 things on my to-do list? That shit's not happening. It goes back to Tim Ferriss and the Deep Work podcast. Just be okay with small shit going wrong. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with that shit failing, you can focus on your one thing. Number 3. Okay, we're going through a lot of numbers here, Belky. Sorry if I'm boring you.
No. I think we did 4 wartime things, and now we're at 3, which brings us to 7.
Yeah, this is number 7. But we're splitting it from protect
and the thieves.
And protect from whom? From you protect from whom?
Don't do it. Do not do it. What's
you
number 3?
Is the subject. Okay.
Did you hit record on all those cameras?
I think we're only on the main camera now.
That's fine, so long as you hit record.
I hope we did, but the audio is there. Okay.
This is great.
Number 3. Someone's going to prepare for these. Bad health. Take care of your fucking health. Because if you're feeling shitty, like, or you didn't sleep because you're constantly grinding.
Oh my gosh, another fetish. Like, oh, I haven't slept in 3 days.
Right.
I get 9 hours of sleep every night. Just prioritize it.
Dude, I just drank like 8 beers. Didn't eat anything.
Empty
stomach.
That's our friend.
Then number 4, okay, bad environment. Whether it's the people you're around that are just Debbie Downers. Like, I'm constantly thinking this. There are certain people, I'm not going to mention them in my life, but like, they're just a bummer to be around.
That's probably me.
Like, yeah. Especially people that talk about politics a lot. They just bring me down. You want the big thinkers. Like, who else? And that's why I love Brown for the most part compared to high school. It's like everyone's just trying to make an impact somewhere. So surround yourself with these people. Surround yourself with like good incentives in your environment. So like having a studio where it's like all our equipment is here and it's just motivating to work. It's like,
that's work-life balance.
Actually kind of cool. You can use sunk cost in your favor. Right? I heard this before. Like everyone talks about, sunk cost like in the negative sense. Like I'm just getting sunk costed. But if you're like...
Nobody says that. I'm just getting
the kids on the street.
No, never heard that before. Bro, I got so freaking sunk costed today, you would not believe. Have we ever said that?
Thank God you called me out on this shit. I don't talk to anyone. How do you think I'm making...
Anyway.
So you have, like right now, we have like thousands of dollars worth of cameras and
I don't even want
audio
to do the
equipment.
math.
But it's like we have to make use out of them.
Yeah.
Right? You have this mentality of like, I don't want them sitting in the corner going to waste, even though it makes no sense. Like, just do its best. But it motivates us to make more content. There you go. That's the fucking 4 and 4.
Wait a minute. What was the third one of the thieves?
Bad health.
Bad health. Gary Vee says it all the time. It's like if you wake up and you yourself and like the 5 to 10 people you're really, really close to are healthy, what the heck are you so upset about every day? That's it. Health is everything. We were just saying the other day, right? We have a friend who's got some health issues that are kind of a burden to a lot of things. And we were like, we are so lucky. We woke up today and don't have that, I want to say predilection, but disposition. Let's go with disposition.
You're using big words.
We don't have that disposition or that ailment. And what else could you be upset about?
Right.
Why don't we leave
that was
that?
one of the... my voice is going.
One of the what?
I was listening to Sam Parr talk about... He has his podcast, My First Millions. Great podcast. A lot better than this one. And he was talking about like how he got Lyme disease. And he had this billionaire friend that got him a private doctor to just like come and take care of him. And the advantages medicinally that you'll have medically that you'll have compared to everyone else is just fucking night and day. So that's like one benefit of money. What I wanted to say with being financially wealthy.
What did that have to do with anything I said? The benefit of having money?
Being healthy. Like having money helps you be healthier. So like use that money to keep yourself healthy.
That makes sense. That's like money solving money problems.
Oh, there's so many things in this book that I wanted to talk about.
What else? We don't have to go yet.
Like habits. And normally you have to go.
We talk about habits.
No, but like use your willpower just to get yourself over the hurdle for habits. That's the only purpose.
Because your habits drive everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing with me. Like they say like 66 days. It's kind of a wide range, so I don't know. It's kind of arbitrary, but like take 2 months. Okay, so financially wealthy. This is just a little blurb. I know we'll sum it up at the end. So like there's the one takeaway. But like you want money. You just want enough money coming in so that you can focus on your purpose in life. Like you don't have to worry about any other shit.
Why don't
like,
you leave the little fisherman's anecdote
parable? I don't know the difference between.
The anecdote's like a story.
Oh, that comes back
Fable.
so much in life. Of just like my dad's like, the person that I'm crashing on their couch right now is making, I don't know if I can say numbers, like a lot of money. And he's like, why don't you do that? One, I'm not smart enough. But two, like, why wouldn't you do something like that? Make $1 million in the bank, and then you can work on whatever you want.
That's what you would be doing today. So really quick, it was the Mexican fisherman, if you don't link it, who was like, oh, I'm just so happy fishing, and when I fish, it feeds my family, and we hang out, and we have beer, and we party at night, and it's awesome. And then this capitalist from the States comes into town. He's like, oh my gosh, you're the best fisherman in the world. Why don't you monetize this? Why don't you buy a bunch of boats and have all your fishermen go out and blah, blah, blah. You can make all this money if you do it. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be a good idea. And then by the end of it, the capitalist is like, yeah. And the capitalist says you can do all of that, and then you can retire and you can fish and have beer and party with your friends. And he's like, dude, I'm doing that right now. What do you mean?
The essence is there. You told it differently. You told it in a way where the Mexican was smarter.
Can we cut that? Because you got to read it.
It's so good.
It's so good.
The Mexican guy is just, he's like, he keeps asking, so what? Or like, why?
Okay.
He's like, oh, why would I create this franchise of shipping boats? Oh, so that you can make a lot of money and then, go public with it. And it's like, why would I go public, make all this money? Oh, so you can retire in a small fishing village, hang out with your friends, drink beers all day. It's like, dude, that's what I do.
I'm just going to keep doing that.
It reminds me of the thing you sent me. What was the island or the place? You just sent me a TikTok about it. This guy that's just spearfishing.
He's in Bali.
Bali.
Yeah.
Costs nothing to live there and just spearfish all day and live a crazy life.
Yeah, and somebody would say, well, why don't you start a spearfishing company and hire a bunch of people? He's like, yes, I could do that. But in the end, I would still be doing my happiest thing would be what I'm doing right now. So I'm just going to keep doing that.
But you don't get the private health care that you could with the doctor.
Yeah, I'm about to be off our insurance in a couple of years. So
that's the thing. Okay, there were like a couple points because I know the title of the book. It talks about extraordinary results. That's why we have the headphones. It talks about like what's going to get you extraordinary results. I think it's kind of a big deal, but I didn't really take many notes. It's like purpose, productivity, priority. So like you want to have a purpose for everything you're doing to get you to some level. Like we want to be Joe Rogan type people with insane reach. Priority, just like learn to prioritize stuff. And then productivity, we just talked about all the productive shit. God, we've just been all over tangents. So like it's not very connected right now. But the essence is this, Belky.
Yeah.
You take your goal, your dream, and if you're an ambitious person, what's the best way to get your dream?
Just
focus on one thing. It was rhetorical. Focus on one thing.
The gears were spinning.
Hit that one domino. Like at the end of the day,
hit that subscribe button.
Hit that subscribe button. Review this shitty podcast.
At the end of the day, no, finish.
Well, you're the first domino, right? No one's gonna help you be this person that thinks this way, that just creates all this potential energy. You have to be that person. Set up your systems, your environment, everything by focusing on one thing, and then you'll tip everything over. And you fucking hit the moon. Next thing you know, it's 1969 and you're walking. Was it 69? When Neil Armstrong walked on the moon?
65? We don't do trivia around here.
No,
we do not. We do not memorize names, dates, and random.
I do. I want to do another history one. Can we do another history?
Sure. Do I know the exact date they landed on the moon? No, I think it was July in the 60s.
69?
Let's get out of here. No, come on. Let's get out of here. Leave a review. Subscribe to this podcast.
God.
That was a whole lot of nonsense. I think I've definitely found my niche on this podcast. It's the nonsense guy. A cup of coffee and some nonsense. Join us for a cup of coffee and some nonsense.
There are even more points that I wanted to talk about, but we can't do it. We'll focus on the one thing. One thing. Okay. Can I just say this?
Can you give them one thing to do and to take away?
Ask yourself this question every single day. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?